Hi everyone, welcome to our first ever live session. And this is Wizards of Extentia, the council. And this is our first ever live session with Chetan. And this is our, this campaign is a place for us to get to know our senior leadership team better, how they think, what makes them tick, what makes them the people they are, what makes them the leaders they are today, and more. So I'm Aditya from the marketing team at Extentia, and I'm your host for today. Today, I'm happy to welcome Chetan Shetty, Extentia's Chief Operating Officer. Chetan has a way with words. He's known for being approachable, knowledgeable, and a wonderful storyteller. Hi, Chetan. Welcome to the very first Wizards of Council Live. How do you feel as our first guest ever?
Hi, Aditya. Very honored and very flattered that you picked me as first and excited to see how this goes.
Of course, yeah. I mean, like we said, you're very approachable and you are a storyteller at heart. So it was an obvious choice to pick you as the first council member to come on live with us. So, yeah. Did you catch the intro post we had before this on Instagram?
Yes, I did.
Wonderful. So I hope you liked the picture. Yeah. And yeah, let's just get started with some of the questions we have for you today, Chetan.
Sure.
Let's start off with something that could be easy or difficult depending on how you take it. But your management style in one word.
I would pick trust. Okay, I think that my management style is to trust the people I work with, and to be honest, I haven't been disappointed. So I think it works.
Yeah, I mean, I agree because if you can trust other people, then in turn they can trust you as a leader. So I agree with that. Thank you. It's well known that you're a storyteller by passion. How do you believe storytelling contributes to your role as COO at Extentia?
I wouldn't say that I can't think of a way it contributes directly, but I think that storytelling helps me connect with people. It helps me bring out examples in a more interesting manner. So it improves my ability to communicate. And therefore, overall, it definitely helps me. And really, very often I heard this some time back and I really liked the line. They said that the most important CXO that you need in a company is a CSO, which is the Chief Storytelling Officer. And I'm glad to wear that mantle. I think that.
Absolutely, absolutely. You wear it well because you have conducted so many storytelling sessions also at Extensia. So that really shines through in your leadership as well. Are there any authors that have had a significant impact on your leadership philosophy or the way you approach challenges in the corporate world?
If you're asking about my leadership qualities and my philosophy about leadership, when I was very young, I think the poem that made a huge impact on me was Rabindranath Tagore's Where the Mind is Without Fear. And I have really lived my life by that poem of trying to create organizations where we could create an ecosystem, a microcosm of a world where the mind is without fear, and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, and the world is not broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. So I think that poem has stayed with me forever. I mean, I think I probably came across it in school, but through my formative years, I really felt that this is such a perfect definition of how organizations should and behave and should be. So I think I would attribute that as my leadership style, if you're honest.
Fair, because like you said, even growing up, I heard that poem and it struck a chord with me as well. And especially in today's very hectic climate with so many problems going on, we must go forward with our head held high and knowledge should be free. So I agree with you there. In your role as COO, what would you consider as the most significant or many significant leadership challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Just in recent times, I think COVID was a huge leadership challenge, right? I mean, we had to rethink the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we deliver. the way we connect with people, everything had to be rethought. I thought that was a huge challenge, and I think we responded pretty well. I would think by the different kinds of programs that we had, our whole HR cares, things like that, that we reached out and stayed connected. And soon after COVID, we had this, the great resignation where people were leaving companies left, right, and center. We weren't that badly impacted. But on the other hand, there was this huge growth phase. So we went through what seemed like a terrible downturn, and suddenly we went through a growth phase. And I think managing that shifting of gears so quickly was a huge challenge. And I think we almost doubled in size from pre-COVID to now. So I think that managing that growth and keeping the company, the philosophy, the culture, and the work style alive was a good challenge that we've had for recent years. But overall, I would say, I think, building credibility, building an atmosphere of trust, building an atmosphere where people know that we will be each other's safety net has been an overall business challenge or a leadership challenge that I think we're constantly attacking, facing, trying to take on all the time.
Yeah, fair enough. COVID was a challenge, and obviously, like with any challenge, we kind of learn from it and move forward, like you mentioned with the company as well. Building off of that, your role would come with a lot of high pressure situations, like you mentioned, COVID and so many other challenges. How do you manage that stress? And what advice would you give to employees and colleagues on handling pressure while maintaining a positive and productive mindset?
I would like to believe, and in fact, I believe that I lead a far less stressful life than many of my colleagues. I mean, when I talk to them, when I speak to them, I realize that they have far greater challenges than I do. I'm quite a relaxed person, and I sort of live my life like that. So I'm not stressed, and I don't sort of believe in. That's not been my situation or state of mind. And if you ask me, how does that, how do I manage that or how do I do that? I feel it's just by keeping some perspective. I'm reminded of, Charlie Chaplin's line where he said that life is a tragedy in a close-up, but it's a comedy in a long shot. So, if you can just keep a long shot on everything, you can watch things happen and go with the flow. And I don't think that you get too stressed. So if you're asking me for advice, which I'm not always, I don't believe I'm in a position to give, but I would say that, just keep a little perspective. If you take a long shot of life, you'll find it's fun, it's amusing, and it's doing you well. You'll be happy with your own self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a perspective thing, like you rightly said.
Right.
It's all about your mindset and your perspective as a leader. Let's move on to some of the questions our extensions themselves came up with. As a storyteller, how do you choose a story to tell? Do you have a specific criterion, or do you just feel that people need to hear this, or this is something new that I must tell them?
This is a very good question. I have often felt, and this is the feeling even among people within my circle of storytellers, that the biggest challenge in storytelling is picking the right story. That finding a story that connects with you and that you feel is a story that needs to be told. That is a big challenge. And also on the other hand, not all stories are tellable. There may be some great stories that, when in written form, they're beautiful, but they don't lend themselves to a telling. So really picking stories is really difficult. And the only thing I can say about what stories I pick is that if I read it, it should talk to me. And if it talks to me, then I know what I want to convey to an audience when I'm telling the story. So therefore, I connect to it. And I have, on the literary side, the stories that I have stuck to are stories about tolerance, about generosity, about the man-woman relationship. These are things that interest me, about the personality, human nature in general. These are subjects that interest me, and I pick stories that bring that point out really well. So I think that's how I pick it. But I must admit that is the tough job. Picking good stories is difficult.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, not every story translates to telling it. Some things you just have to read, some things you just have to spread like as a storyteller. So moving on, you also enjoy trekking, as I'm sure most of our audience knows. So what is your next trek adventure that you've planned for yourself?
I should put some disclaimers here. I have been only on a few treks in my life, so I can't really claim that I'm an avid trekker. But I've done some interesting treks, and therefore that's my claim to fame. Like I did Everest Base Camp, I did the Camino de Santiago last year, which was excellent. Not last year, year before last, which was excellent. So on similar lines, I have another great trek lined up. And fingers crossed it should happen. It didn't happen last year. It didn't happen this year. I'm hoping it will happen in 2025. Is I'm going to go to Peru and go to Machu Picchu. So that is something that I'm doing. And if I can do it, I would consider it a privilege that I was able to do it and complete it. So that's what I'm looking forward. But on the other
Absolutely.
hand, I'm always looking out for interesting long walks. So if anyone has suggestions and ideas of things that test your endurance, which is really what I like to do, I would love to consider suggestions. So I welcome any suggestions from people who have experienced other treks and would like to suggest them.
Absolutely. All the best to you on that, Chetan, because like you said, picking the next story and picking the next trek are both very important decisions to make. Um, Moving on to a somewhat heavy question. Does respect need to be earned?
Whoever asked me this question has attended one of my storytelling sessions because this is the point that I make of it. And I really believe that as human beings, we should respect everyone. So and it doesn't have to be earned. It can be lost. If you behave really badly, you may lose someone's respect. But off the bat, I think everyone is entitled to respect. And that has been a philosophy or a way of life that I have been trying to propagate through my stories. And I'm sure this question has come from someone who already knew the answer.
Understandable. And this is a question from our live audience. What's your perspective on failure? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you just learn from it? Do you move on from it?
Yeah, it's easy for me to say that you must learn from it because, it really feels terrible while you're going through it.
That's
But
right.
again, just coming back to my whole issue about having a perspective on things, I don't think that anybody's life is really one straight line like that. Even someone who's constantly on the ascendancy is actually seeing a lot of ups and downs in that way. So we're all going through some number of failures and some number of successes and peaks. And not everybody's life is successful on every front. While we may do very well financially, we may not be feeling a satisfaction at work, or we may have trouble at home, which I don't wish on anybody. But I'm saying that, therefore, there can be a lot of challenges. But I really think we should take every one of those failures as a chance to learn, still keep our chin up and bounce back and do something else again. So I'd like to think of as failures as having not succeeded, but not as a failure. So the absence of success rather than a failure is how I would like to classify it. And just carry on. So I've had several failures, if you want, in my life. I could write a whole book about it. But I think we have to just take the lessons from it and move on.
And I'm sure we'd all want to read that book, Chetan. So please, I mean, by all means, please write that book. So, because I mean, everyone can connect with the concept of failure and being able to move past it or not. But that's again, like you mentioned, it's a challenge to overcome. So it's all mindset. So a book would really actually help from your perspective. So I'll actually hold you to that in some ways. I will follow up on this later. Now, on to a lighter question, but one that all of us in the audience, I'm sure, have. What is your opinion on the 4-day work week model?
I think that in the current work scenario, we don't even know what a day of work is, right? I mean, I may have joined a call with Australian clients at 6 o'clock in the morning and had calls with them till 10, and then continued from started again at noon and worked till a late night call with the US. So have I done 2 days work in a day? So I think the concept of the day of work itself is become difficult to define, right? And therefore, I would only say that anyone who wants a work day, 4 day week, should work themselves into a position where they have the liberty to manage their own tasks, etc., and do what is expected of them in 4 days. And it's fine. So as a policy, I don't think I mean, I don't see Extentia or dentsu in the near future announcing a 4 day week, and I'm not. And if I was asked, I wouldn't vote in favor of it if my opinion was solicited. But I really feel that eventually it's up to us. I think that we are objective driven. We want to get things done. We want to serve our clients. If we can manage to do that in a 4 day week and not be missed on the fifth day, that's fine. Because actually, all of us end up working almost all 7 days in some way or the other, right? We're doing something related to work almost 7 days a week. So it's not that question itself. I feel needs to be thought over. I don't think that's so critical.
You heard it here, everyone who's on this live. You've heard Chetan's comments firsthand on the 4 day work week. Just get done with work and then we can talk.
Yeah.
Moving on to
Your
some of the
clients
other
shouldn't
questions.
complete and your teammates shouldn't miss you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple more questions from our live audience. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie?
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's so many now. How to pick a favorite one? Yeah, the standard ones: Shawshank Redemption, Three
Wonderful movie.
Idiots,
Yeah.
one of them. And of course, most recently, I saw the Malayalam movie, and I hope I'm saying it right, Kathal, which is such a beautiful movie. It had me thinking about the movie and the nuances and the beautiful things they've done in that movie for days after. So there are so many good movies. And I'm a big movie fan. I love watching movies. So I'll have many. I don't have any one single favorite.
And what's a quote that you live by? You mentioned loving Rabindranath Tagore's poem, and that kind of bled into your philosophy as well. But if you had to mention a quote that you live by, apart from the poem, of course, what would it be?
Well, I already mentioned Charlie Chaplin's quote as well. Now, if
Yeah.
you're asking me for yet another one, I'm a little stuck. I'm not coming up with something.
Okay.
Let me come back to this if something strikes me a little.
No problem. Yeah. And as a leader, this is again from the live audience. As a leader, what do you look for in a person to be part of your team?
Again, it'll sound cliched, but attitude above everything else, right? So we're looking for people who have the will to work, who are not going to be constrained by a job description, but who will look around and say, how can I help? Where can I add most value? I think that those are the kind of people I really love, and I would love to work with them, have the privilege of working with them, and have them on my team. So I think that this kind of an attitude, a let's do attitude, being positive, trusting and believing people as opposed to being cynical. These are the kind of things that I would love to see in people that I work with.
True. And that in a way also reflects in our ethos as a company. Do more, be more is people who are willing to go the extra mile and find out what they can add to the company and to their teams and to their own lives. So yeah. One more question that may have been asked ad infinitum to you, but what are you looking forward to in the integration with the dentsu family?
I'm looking forward for it to be as seamless and happy as possible. Right? I hope that it doesn't become too much of a disruption, and I hope that all of us see better opportunities. I know that we are working with very good people. Everybody that I have met at dentsu are wonderful people. So I know that we are joining a family full of very nice people. Just that we should find our own place there, find our feet, and grow with the organization. So let's say I'm looking for it to be as seamless as possible, that it should just be a happy continuation of our lives with much greater opportunities ahead.
Wonderful. What's one piece of advice that you wish you could give your younger self?
I've asked myself this question before, so I'm ready with an answer. I wish I trusted in my own self a little more. Right? I feel that I've been too much a victim of self doubt all through my life, and maybe even today. And I think that in retrospect, I always feel I had the right idea, but I didn't follow through on it. You know, that I knew what had to be done, but I didn't trust my own instincts enough. So I really feel that the best advice I can give my younger self is believe in yourself. And this is something I would tell everybody because I think all of us have something special in us, and we need to believe in that part of ourselves because we don't want cookie cutter robots around. We want each one to be special. And if you believe in yourself, you will be that special person we need.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone can empathize with that, not believing in their own ideas as much. So I'm sure that resonates with a lot of our audience. Um, Another question that I personally also want to ask you, which is also from our live audience, how can you be a good listener like you are already?
Thank you. I mean, I don't think it's easy being a good listener, and if people feel I'm a good listener, I'm very grateful for that opinion. I think that it's important to have empathy, right? I mean, you let me just step back. I'm saying it's important to believe that everyone is good, right? If you start off with suspicion and cynicism, and you're looking for the other person to, to be deceitful, etc., you will not be listening, right? So I think that an important part is to believe that the person you're talking to is good, has something of value to say, and you can empathize with them. And I think then, just be calm and listen. Uh, actually, it's easy, but I think it requires a basic attitude of having a general belief level of trust and faith in humanity.
Very true. And it also calls back to your philosophy of respect being everyone's right in a way. Because if you respect the other person and you know that they have something of value to share, then you will automatically listen to what they have to share with you. So I'm happy to see that that correlates with everything. Um, One more question that we have is what's your success mantra in life in general?
Oh God, these are all tough questions to come up with. I mean, I'm sure I can say something cliche,
Yeah.
but what is my success mantra? First of all, like I said, I don't think of my failures as failures, and I shouldn't think of my successes as successes. But things that have served me well is again, I think respect, humility. Uh, I try my best to be polite to everybody. I mean, having respectful, polite conversations is important to me, and I so therefore I feel that that is what has also been keeps good relationships, and it helps me keep my mental balance. So I think this is my success mantra. I want to be at peace when I go to bed at night, and I think most often I am.
And what is one new thing that you've learned recently?
Let's say so I'm learning to play pickleball. Okay, it's a craze over the world, so but I've joined the fan,
Right.
and I'm learning to play pickleball. And I was just telling my wife this morning that one of the things that I've learned in pickleball, which is also true in storytelling, is that you need to be a little deliberate. I mean, you can't always be subtle. That sometimes you have to be a little deliberate in what you're doing. And I'm sort of taking that lesson back into life as well and saying that maybe I need to be a little more deliberate about the things I'm doing. And it probably connects back to this concept we spoke about believing in yourself a little more. So the things that I believe in and the things that I want to do, I should just be a little more deliberate in it, is the kind of thing that I feel that I have learned or that life is telling me is what I'm perceiving that life wants me to learn. That
Wonderful. And let's go to a simpler question. And I think this can be one of our final questions for this afternoon. Um, Please describe Extentia's culture in 3 words, what it means to you.
It's nurturing, it's exciting, and it's kind. Okay? So I hope that's the 3 best words that I can come up with. So I would say nurturing,
Wonderful.
exciting, and kind.
Yeah. And also, we got a comment just now where everyone's waiting for your YouTube channel for your storytelling sessions. So I think we're all looking forward to that. If you do want to take up a new hobby, we definitely, as a team, recommend that you start a YouTube channel, please.
I far prefer telling stories in person, and I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
that sometimes the recorded story of just a storytelling, because in the storytelling there are no lights and props and costumes and movement, so it's just me speaking to you. So I prefer to do this in person, and I feel that watching a recording takes away; it doesn't have the same impact. But yes, maybe I should explore just that way I can, maybe help stories reach a lot of people. So we will explore that idea as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it is an idea to consider. So nobody's forcing you, of course. And we have time for one last question, and that is what's next in store for you? Where do we go from here?
So I think it's time for me to reinvent myself. I think that we are at an interesting stage in Extentia's assimilation into dentsu, and that throws up so many new opportunities. So I'm actually looking forward to the next 6 months to see how I can reinvent myself. How can I be of value to my colleagues, to clients, and to the company in a different way than I have been for the last 10 years or more. So I think that I am going through that process of trying to figure out how can I be of value going.
Wonderful, Chetan. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. To the audience, this brings us to the end of our very first interview. And thank you so much, like I said, for sharing your valuable insights and stories with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, as we had expected, to have you here. And I'm sure our viewers have also learned quite a bit about you today. And I'm sure you'll also have to face a lot of questions after this because you've been so uh, wonderful at answering so many of our questions today.
Well, I hope
And for
it's
it,
of some
yeah,
value, but thank you so much for the opportunity.
absolutely, absolutely, Chetan. Always wonderful to talk to you. And to our viewers, watch this space for more. We have a lot more sessions like this coming up with all of our leaders. So, Chetan, if you could just end this on like with a few words from you. I mean, I've been talking enough, so
So, no, I think that in general, I feel that gratitude and humility are really important, and therefore I am filled with those two emotions right now. Thank you for giving me your time, and I'm very humbly grateful for all the attention. You're letting me talk about myself. Who doesn't love that? So, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
and thank you for your time also, Chetan. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful. Okay, guys, we're wrapping it up for today. Have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend ahead, and we'll see you in the next session.